If you only have 2 hours a week to get your training in, then sometimes you can feel a bit distraught that maybe you'll never become athletic because maybe you don't have enough time. How could you fit it all in? But I'm here to tell you actually can get very athletic with just 2 hours of training a week. And today we're going to walk through what I would do if I only had 2 hours a week to train and why I would do it. So you can kind of understand what you need to do with your training. So let's just jump straight into it, right? The first thing we want to do when we're thinking about something like this is we need to think about the constraints on the training plan. And there's going to be a lot because everyone has different injuries, different wants, different needs, blah, 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 blah. Different levels of training. I don't know, I don't need to keep adding things. But there is one big constraint that kind of comes before everything, whether you had a goal of injury, recovery and cardio, strength and whatever, just becoming generally athletic, it's that you've only got 2 hours. So that is going to dictate a lot of the way we program this. And then we need to think about what actually are the goals that we have. And we want to become fitter, faster, stronger, bigger, and feel better. If we're just putting athletic into some like easy terms to understand, and when we kind of break that down, that means we need to be working on all of our athletic qualities at once, really. And that is why it can seem quite difficult if you can only train 2 hours a week, right? Because it's like, fuck, that's a lot of stuff and not a lot of time. So let's think about what are our athletic qualities. And this is something I actually like to think about quite a lot. So let me jump over to a different tab on my screen because I'm a technological whiz. Bang! Right. These are the athletic qualities I think about when programming for my clients. And this isn't to say this is the right way to do it, but it is the way that I do it. Flip, that's hot. Fucking hell. Right. We've got maximal speed, speed endurance, maximal power, power endurance, maximal strength, strength endurance, mobility and flexibility, coordination, anaerobic conditioning, aerobic conditioning, and hypertrophy. That is what I think about in terms of athletic qualities. I'm not going to read through all the definitions and key considerations and stuff. You can just pause the video if you want to see that. And if you're wondering where this is from, actually, this is from a progressive overload document that I put together. You can get this if you work with our coaches one-to-one or if you're in the Different Breed Athlete Academy, which I'll leave links to working with us and the Athlete Academy below. And this just talks through athletic qualities, how to develop them. But that's by the by. What we want to think about is now, what do we need to do if we want to develop all of those athletic qualities? And we need to think about this for movement patterns and experiences. So what we need is high effort heavy, high effort fast, large ROM movements, cardio stimulus, unilateral movements, volume and moderate impact. Now, there is probably a lot more you could like word and fit into there, but in my mind, if we get about that in your program, you're going to be in a pretty decent spot. And we want to spread that across some different movement patterns. So we know we're hitting roughly the whole body, and that is hip dominant lower movement. So you can think about a deadlift would be a hip dominant lower two-legged movement, you know, bilateral where you're using bilateral, where you're using two legs in the same place. Or we could think about a split stance RDL, and that is a unilateral, hip dominant lower. You've also got knee dominant lowers, so squat, lunge. We've then got horizontal pushing, horizontal pulling, so horizontal, that's vertical. Horizontal pushing, like a push-up, horizontal pulling, like a row. And obviously you've got unilateral variation, so you could do a single arm pull-up, you could do a single arm row. You've then got vertical push, vertical pull. And then we have some different stuff that our core needs to do. And our core needs to twist. Oh, did you hear that crack? You probably didn't because you're here, but that was good. And then you need to flex forward and extend, and you need to be able to do that side to side as well, as forward and back. And you need to be able to go rigid, like real tight, what your core does when you're deadlifting. And if you do all of those movement patterns and you have all of these experiences, you're going to be in a pretty good place to develop generally athletically. So it's a lot of stuff though. So how do we break it down? Well, let's look at this overview. So this is what I've done, day 1, day 2. And I haven't actually ticked this off. I just wrote this and I went, I reckon that's going to be roughly this, right? And that's what I've done. And this is how we're going to do it. So what you'll see, one of the key considerations is we don't have a lot of time. So we've used EMOMs on both days. We've used supersets and trisets. There's actually only one exercise block at all that exists on its own. And I believe when we look at the programming, that is only for one set. Because when you're so short on time, you need to do a lot and you need to do it efficiently. So day 1 would start off with a tri-set of some calf raises, some single arm dead hang and some pogo hops. Acts as a very nice warm up for us. And if you do that at the start of your training, it's not really going to do anything bad to you. It's going to allow you to train like normal. And what we get there is we've got some moderate impact, so we can tick that off. We've got a unilateral movement. Obviously, you could do the calf work unilateral as well. Up to you what you wanted to do on that. I'm not going to say that that ticks that off, but I'm just going to point that out. And the single arm dead hang is going to be a nice stretch as well. I wouldn't necessarily consider it a large range of motion movement, but it's going to help with shoulder mobility. And it's a vertical pull. So we're getting a load of different things there. What you see is we pick this up quite quickly. Then we'd move into an E3 mom of 9 minutes of broad jump and a med ball slam, or a kipping toes to bar. That would just depend on the level you're at. If you do a kipping toes to bar just very aggressively, it's an amazingly good movement for core explosivity, similar to a med ball slam. And I like a kipping toes to bar personally. I think they're great. Get totally rinsed on because of CrossFit, but they are such a good movement. And being able to do loads of them is actually pretty fucking sick. I don't know why they get so much hate. It's so weird. So the reason we're going to do an E3 mom is we want to do power work, right? But we don't have a lot of time. And the reality is of power work is you need to rest a long time. You need to rest 3 to 5 minutes at the end of doing something at a really high maximal effort if you want to then do that again with an effective training stimulus. So what we've done is we picked an upper and a lower. So we're kind of like isolating parts of the body. But the problem is with power movements, generally they are full body and you are going to use your full body here. So we'll keep the volume relatively low so we can keep the total work time to, I mean, ideally you'd get below 10 seconds, right? But we're going to kind of like let that expand a little bit, say it's not optimal, but it's still going to work to maybe like 15, 20 seconds. We're going to do it. And then in that 3 minutes, we're going to get slightly suboptimal rest as well, but we're still going to get a decently large amount of rest and there's somewhat separation. It's not optimal. This is the downside, but we can get it in. And then what we're getting is high effort, fast for both of them in an upper and a lower. And of course, horizontal push, pull, hips, all of this you can start ticking off. Then we're going to do the same thing again, but this time we're going to go for a plyo push-up and a front squat. Plyo push-up is another power movement where we want the longer rest, and the front squat is going to be something where, you know, if we were looking to develop strength, we ideally want the longer rest as well. But we'll take the same logic that if we keep the work time relatively short, we can take a bit suboptimal rest and still get that development. And what's nice is we are going to develop our maximal power, but because you're also getting the sub-maximal rest, you're also going to get a little bit of power endurance because whilst we are training all of our athletic qualities separately and in an ideal program, we do want to clearly define what we're doing. The reality is all of these things in training overlap and kind of like wiggledy-woggledy in and out of each other. It's like fucking Doctor Who.
Wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey. You know what the crack is.
So you're going to get some power endurance. You're also obviously going to be able to develop your strength with this front squat, and we're going to get some strength endurance alongside that. And then I'd finish off with a rounds for time. Depending on how quickly you got through the start of this, you could sort of do 3 to 5 rounds. Alternating jumping lunges, so we're getting some more moderate impact. We're changing up what we're doing though, so we're getting a different exposure to the type of jumping. So we'd be able to tick off this like unilateral variation. Get a landmine twist in there, which is going to be core. It's also somewhat explosive and dynamic. It's got a good stretch. It's pretty decent range. Lateral box jumps, another moderate impact, but this one's looking at more power endurance now, rather than these alternating jumping lunges, which are a bit lower effort, lower coordination, lower output. And then alternating Arnold press, just some over the head single arm volume. And what you'll notice is something else from the fact that we've not got a lot of time is we're not really going like we're going to squat, bench, deadlift. What we're thinking about is these movement patterns, because if we develop these, you will get stronger and you'll be stronger when you go back to deadlifting and you have more time. So we're just picking good movements that allow us to tick all of this stuff off. So if we take this day now, guys, we've gone, goodness me, fast. And then have we gone heavy, high effort heavy? Yeah, we have, because we've got a squat in there. Boom. Have we got some large range of motion movements in here? Maybe not so much yet. The kipping toes to bar is pretty large range of motion actually, to be fair, and it's fast. So that is a very high level kind of like mobility movement. It's one of the reasons I like it. Got the landmine twist though. We've got the alternating Arnold press. That's pretty good range for the shoulders. And we've got the front squat. So I'm not going to necessarily say let's tick it off yet, but we've done pretty well. We've got a good cardio stimulus in there. We've got unilateral movements and we have got a lot of volume. And this is something that is it's really quite magic, guys. You can get so much volume in when you're doing cardio because it's, by definition of doing high volume, it's not maximal effort, right? So you can put that sub-maximal effort stuff into a cardio workout where you're doing different body parts, keeping your heart rate really, really high and you know, getting out of breath, but your muscles will still work if you're doing different things. And you can kind of blend these things together. It's why CrossFit athletes get so jacked. And actually, as we look at both these days, because we're doing the EMOMs, the supersets, we are going to keep your heart rate elevated throughout this. So whilst there's no direct steady state in there, which obviously isn't ideal, but as long as you do some walking or some cycling in your week and you can accumulate like, you know, 30, 40 minutes of steady state throughout the week, which everyone can, especially just walk somewhere fast. Just walk somewhere aggressively fast. Like if it's normally a 30-minute walk, make it 20, nasal breathe and, you know, get through it, and then there and back, you've done it. This is what my mum does, and it works well for her. So you can get it in there, but also you're going to have a real high heart rate throughout this. You're going to be getting like an element of that stimulus. It may not be true steady state, but again, all of these things interweave and overlap. So you're going to get some aerobic benefit here, and that is going to be really useful. Now, let's have a look at day 2. So we're going to start off with a deficit RDL. So that's a hip dominant lower. Obviously, we take that off. High effort heavy. Then we go into a single leg landmine RDL. Now these are both large range of motion movements. They're also strong, but then we can get the unilateral, we can get the heavy bilateral one here, and then just go straight into a unilateral variation to get the down set. So your down sets don't need to be like, you don't need to do a heavy triple on a deficit RDL, then down set into deficit RDLs. You can just jump straight onto another movement because you're warmed up and ready for it. You don't want to pick one that's maybe like highly technical, but with a landmine RDL, like you can literally just take the end of one of your bar off, take a couple plates off, stand on the plates you've taken off, and now you've got a deficit again, and do the RDL straight away, and you'll have enough balance to do it. So that's really nice. And then we're going to do bridge wall walk. So that's where we're going to get extension. And this is also going to nicely prime us for something we'll come on to later, which is a GHD halo, but it adds in this large ROM movement. And a bridge, guys, is one of the most underrated movements in training. Like, it is basically the ultimate upper body stretch. If you can get a really, really good bridge, you're good. Like, I would honestly say just accumulate like 5 to 10 minutes of bridge work a week, pancake work and squat work, and you've basically covered your entire body. Like, it's honestly, it's so good. So bridge work is underrated, and we can just slip that in there really easily. Then we're going to go back into an EMOM. Weighted pull-ups, cable side bend. I've put EMOM for 12 here. I have a feeling I actually cut this down a little bit in the plan, but when we think about volume, you can up it by, you know, building into these EMOMs or taking them down, just depending on the time you have available and the time it takes you to warm up. If you're stronger, then it's going to take you longer to warm up for your EMOM. You might have to take like 3 warm-up sets rather than 1, and then obviously that's going to change how much work you can do. But if you're stronger, you can lift more. If you go to that higher intensity, you can get more out of those sets. So it does all balance out in the end. Then we've got another EMOM, Gorilla Row, GHD Halo, so we're going to get some core rotation, which is really nice, large range of motion, and then Gorilla Row, horizontal rowing, which is just, you know, good for you, and it's alternating. We get this nice like action of like moving the body. It's good for your hips, good for everything. And then we've got a tricep, cable pancake, which is a mobility piece, and you just be letting that cable pull you forward and getting this really nice stretch. And as I said, the 3 mobility things I would use is a bridge, a squat, and a pancake if I really wanted to develop mobility in like the easiest time possible. Say we're not doing it outside of the gym and just accumulating that time, what we can do is get it in here. We've got some bridge work, we've got some pancake work, and then we've got some squat work here. And that is like absolutely essential. And then we finish off just some arm work as well, because nice pump and training your arms is good for you. And have we hit all of this? Well, yeah, we've hit a hip dominant lower and a bilateral. We've hit large range of motion movements. And all the 3 I would say you need to be more mobile. We've hit a knee dominant lower and unilateral variations of that. We haven't necessarily done strength in all of them, mobility in all of them, power in all of them, cardio in all of them, but you don't need to. Like, as these things interweave and overlap, there is general stimulus, you know.
From a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Alternating jumping lunges still put mechanical tension and stress through your muscle. They still put metabolic stress on them. So they help develop strength endurance, power endurance. They help develop hypertrophy. It's like these things interweave and overlap. They're not as defined as sports science kind of makes it out to be. And that's unfortunately the nature of science, is things have to be defined to do good science. But training and the human body is much more like an art than a science, and the nature of these things aren't really that defined, and we don't quite get how they all work. And maybe with like, I don't know, AI or quantum computing we will, but at the stage we're at now, you're better off thinking about it as wibbly wobbly, arty shit, basically, and just keep in mind these things overlap. We've done horizontal pushes. Now, we haven't actually done a single arm horizontal push, but that's okay because we are doing alternating Arnold press. So we are going to be doing a form of pushing that is single, unilateral, and that's okay. You know, you need to keep in mind you might not perfectly get everything, but as long as we're doing something that is a push and a one arm, your arm's going to be fine. We've done horizontal pulling. We've done vertical pushing. We've done vertical pulling because we've got pull-ups. We've done core rotation. We've done core rigidity. That gets nicely ticked off with the heavy stuff we do. And we have done, oh, I forgot to mention, cable side bends. We've done flexion and extension, and we've done that laterally and sagittally. So you can see, we can tick this off pretty quickly and do everything in just 2 days. And this would not take you longer than an hour each. Maybe a smidgen longer if you were a bit sore and you needed a big warm-up. But, you know, if you have an active job, you might be able to jump straight into this. And then this is what it would look like if we were actually doing it, guys. So you'd start off with your tricep, just 2 sets, 20 pogo hops, 1 set, hopping left and right, 1 set, hopping forward and backwards. And now you're getting a bit of variety in there and a bit of movement exposure to different positions, which is what we want. And 2 sets, and you can do that. We can then do some single arm dead hang, some RPA, RPE9, because it's lower volume. We can go a bit higher intensity. And then some calf raise work, similar thing. 60 seconds rest, and you can just chip through that. It will warm you up nicely. Then we can get into our jump work. So we can do our broad jumps, our med ball slams, our kipping toes to bar. High effort, 3 sets. You know, 5 med ball slams, you can do that very quickly. You can probably do that in about 5 seconds. Same with kipping toes to bar. Maybe a little bit longer. And broad jumps, you're going to do that in about 5 seconds. So it's about that 10-second window, 15-second window that we spoke about. High effort, we don't need to think about rest. We've got the EMOM. Plyo push-ups, front squats, maybe 5 plyo push-ups in the rebound variation where you're just like continually moving. That one is going to take you 3, 4, maybe 5 seconds. Obviously, you then got to jump up, get under the front squat. That's going to take you maybe 10 seconds. If you don't go crazy heavy, you'll be able to move it pretty fast. You can think about moving things fast and well. At say an RPE8, keep each rep sub 3 seconds. You know, you're saving time. You're staying in these ranges where you're not working for so long that the impact on your rest is going to not allow you to get stronger or more powerful. So that's why we love to implement the EMOMs here. High effort on the plyo push-ups, obviously developing power, about an RPE8 on the front squats. You're getting 3 sets, 3 by 3. It's a lovely strength set there. And then we've got our rounds for time. And alternating jumping lunges, I just go 10 each side. I'd set the rule, do them unbroken. So, you know, it forces you to have to take a little bit of rest, know your body and really push through that build up of fatigue and develop that strength endurance, power endurance. Landmine twist, just 8 reps each side, a challenging load. You don't necessarily need to overly prescribe these, just it's hard. You know, you might do these broken because it's a rounds for time workout. You might do 8, rest, 8, you know, who knows? Just a challenging load that causes a decent amount of like effort to go through the muscles we're targeting with the movements. And you know what that feels like. If you've ever done any form of like hypertrophy work ever, you know if you're working a muscle and if you're training hard. So do these for quality, but push the cardio as well. Lateral box jump, 6 each side, a challenging box height, and then some alternating Arnold press. So this isn't like a crazy plan, guys. It's a super simple plan. It doesn't have to be insane. It just needs to be programmed smartly, and you can get all this shit done. And then over here, yeah, see, look, I just dropped down the EMOMs here. I dropped it to a 9 and a 6 rather than the 12 and the 8 we had before. But you could bump those up if you had the time. I mean, that's only, what, 5-minute difference in your workout total. So we'd start off deficit RTL, 7 to 9, 1 set, RP9. You know, you can go in, you can go bar, plate, okay, my working set, get it done. Then 2 sets, single leg RDL, down set on the landmine. Like I say, you can just pull off the end of your bar, put some plates to keep the bar in place, stand on some plates, get a bit more range. You're good to go straight away. Some RPE8, and then the bridge wall walks, just 10 reps down a wall. And that will act as a bit of a rest on your hamstrings. You're not using them at all in a bridge. So we can just take 1 to 2 minutes rest, jump straight back through, and just do that superset really easily, really quickly. Then E3 mom, weighted pull-ups, cable side bend. We'll just chip through that, super easy, super simple, 3 sets. Don't need to rest there because we're on the EMOM, and it will just chip us through a nice rest and rhythm with that. You'll have enough time to do it. You'll get about 90 seconds rest, maybe 60 seconds rest. Then we have the same thing on this E2 mom, 6 minutes, gorilla row, GHD halo, another similar thing. You've got enough time in that to just chip through that. If you had a really, really strong core and maybe you're doing so many halos that it takes you too long, you can just add a plate overhead and, you know, get it down to 5 reps each side. It doesn't take very long if you do that. And then the tricep at the end, as we spoke about, it's a cable pancake, so 90 seconds, just let it pull you into that stretch. If you're doing 3 rounds of that, that is only going to be, what, 4.5 minutes that takes up. and in between you're doing some hammer curl and tricep push down. 10 to 15 reps, you're already on the cable machine and you don't need to rest. You can just loop through it and that cable pancake acts as your rest. So look guys, we have barely used any time at all and we have been able to cover everything we need to do to be an athlete in just these 2 simple days. They're going to take you an hour. So if you've only got 2 hours available a week, guys, you can train like a fucking athletic beast. You just need to do it the right way. So what I will do is I will leave access to this document in the description below. You just click into it and use it as a bit of a template to start creating a plan for yourself, or just run it yourself. Of course, you could run this if it's appropriate for you and you wanted to. And in the description, as I said earlier, I will also leave links to the Different Breed Athlete Academy, which is our education platform where you can go and basically do a little 8-week course covering everything our team thinks you need to know to train to be an athletic freak. Or you can come and work with our team one-to-one and work with one of our incredible coaches and have them support every aspect of your training. And you will also get access to the Different Breed Academy there as well. But I'm on a ramble now. You're not here for that. You're here for 2 days, 2 hours of training a week. And we've done it. So basically, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I enjoyed doing it. Thanks for being here. I'll catch you in the next one. Oh, and subscribe if you liked it, because that always helps the channel.